That morning, the studio lights felt softer than usual, casting a gentle glow over Kelly Ripa as she took her familiar seat. For years, this chair had been the place of laughter, light-hearted moments, and smooth conversations, where millions of viewers tuned in each day to hear her infectious energy. But today, something was different. Kelly's usual sparkle was absent, replaced by a quiet sadness that could not be masked. As she began to speak, her voice trembled, and it became evident that she was no longer performing for the cameras. This wasn't scripted, and this wasn't a moment of entertainment. It was a woman in the middle of a deeply personal struggle, facing heartbreak that was impossible to hide. Facing the pain of betrayal, Kelly's tears weren't just a moment of sorrow, they represented the painful realization of betrayal. Infidelity is often a cold word, one that sounds impersonal and clinical. But for Kelly, it was a personal wound that went beyond the act itself. It wasn't just trust that was shattered, but the very foundation of her identity. She spoke slowly, carefully choosing her words, as if trying to control the pain that threatened to overflow. The room fell silent, and for a brief moment there was no scripted dialogue, no jokes to hide behind, just raw emotion. It was a moment of vulnerability that made her more human than ever before. The complexity of love and heartbreak. Kelly had always been open about the complexities of love, sharing with her audience the effort that goes into maintaining a long-term relationship. She had talked about devotion as a choice, made day after day, through small sacrifices and quiet moments. This is why her pain was so deeply felt by everyone watching, because it was not just a betrayal of love, but a betrayal of the very effort she had put into maintaining that love. As Kelly wiped away her tears, she acknowledged the confusion that followed the realization of infidelity. It was not just the pain of betrayal, but the haunting question of where things went wrong. The mind searches for answers, even when the heart is in turmoil. Infidelity, a slow erosion. Kelly explained that infidelity doesn't happen all at once. It doesn't arrive like a sudden violent blow, but rather creeps in over time. It starts with subtle changes, altered routines, emotional distance, unexplained absences. By the time the truth emerges, it often feels like a storm, a sudden violent event that shakes everything. For Kelly, the realization of betrayal wasn't just the shock of discovering the truth, but the feeling that everything she had trusted was no longer certain. The emotional distance that had grown between her and her partner made even the simplest moments feel foreign, strained, and filled with doubt. Trust shattered, but not gone. One of the most profound realizations Kelly shared was the deep impact of losing trust. She described trust as something that is often taken for granted, something that people don't fully realize they depend on until it's gone. After betrayal, even the simplest exchanges, once filled with ease and laughter, felt different. Every conversation, every shared moment became filtered through doubt. The world that once felt familiar and secure now seemed uncertain. It was not just her heartbreak that struck viewers, but her honesty about what it felt like to lose something as fundamental as trust. She didn't paint herself as a victim, but as a woman grappling with the complexities of love and the pain that comes with betrayal. Choosing vulnerability over perfection. In a world where perfection is often expected, Kelly made a powerful choice to show vulnerability rather than pretend everything was fine. For someone who had spent her career making others feel good, this act of emotional honesty was a radical step in self-preservation. She shared how pretending to be okay had only made her feel more exhausted. "I've learned that pretending you're okay doesn't make you strong," she said softly. "It just makes you tired." In that moment, Kelly's tears weren't just a symbol of grief, they were a release, a recognition that healing starts with embracing the pain, not hiding from it. Redefining yourself. After betrayal, healing, Kelly explained, isn't a straight path. It's not about instantly bouncing back or pretending to be stronger than you are. Some days you feel empowered and ready to move forward. Other days you find yourself pulled back into the pain by a memory, a song, or a conversation. Healing is about carrying the truth without allowing it to destroy you. It's about learning to live with the reality of betrayal, even when the pieces of your past no longer fit together the way they once did. For Kelly, the process wasn't just about rebuilding a relationship, it was about rebuilding herself, her confidence, and her sense of self-worth after the betrayal. The courage to rebuild. As the segment came to an end, Kelly took a deep breath, her tears slowly beginning to fade. She smiled faintly, not the polished public smile that viewers were used to seeing, but something softer, more real. "I'm still standing," she said, her voice quiet but strong. "Some days barely, but I am." This statement resonated deeply, not just in the studio, but with anyone who had ever faced adversity. Kelly's words were a reminder that survival isn't about perfection, it's about showing up, even on the days when it feels impossible. It's about acknowledging the pain while still finding the strength to move forward, one small step at a time. A moment of truth, not collapse. Kelly's tears weren't a sign of collapse. They were a sign of truth in a world that often demands perfection. In an industry built on appearances, Kelly chose to be honest about her heartbreak. She showed her audience that even those who seem the strongest can be deeply wounded, and that acknowledging pain is the first step toward healing. The segment wasn't about the details of her personal life, but about the power of vulnerability and the courage to survive openly. Kelly's tears became a powerful reminder that healing doesn't happen overnight, and that sometimes it takes a long time to put the pieces of yourself back together. The aftermath, finding strength in silence. After the cameras stopped rolling, Kelly sat in her chair for a long moment staring at the floor. The studio crew moved around her quietly, respectful of the raw moment they had just witnessed. It wasn't a performance, it was real life. Later, Kelly would reflect on that silence, realizing that it was in those quiet moments that she truly understood how long she had been carrying the pain alone. "When you're expected to be the strong one," she would later explain, "you often forget that strength doesn't mean silence, it means knowing when to finally let go." For Kelly, letting go wasn't just about releasing the pain, it was about reclaiming her own voice and healing on her terms. Healing through reflection and compassion. In the days that followed, Kelly began to speak more openly, first in private, then gradually in public, about the aftermath of betrayal. It wasn't just the shock or the hurt that she struggled with, it was the questions that lingered. Did she miss the signs? Did she ignore red flags because she wanted to keep the story beautiful? These realizations hurt almost as much as the betrayal itself. But Kelly didn't shy away from these uncomfortable questions. She faced them head-on, understanding that the road to healing required not just facing the pain, but also confronting the ways she had tried to protect herself from it. The grief that surprises you. One of the most surprising things Kelly found during her healing journey was how grief can show up in unexpected places. A shared joke, a familiar song, even laughter. All of these things could trigger a deep emotional reaction, making it feel as though enjoying a moment meant betraying the pain she hadn't fully processed yet. Kelly spoke about the delicate balance of allowing joy back into her life without pretending that the hurt had disappeared. Healing didn't mean forgetting. It meant finding a way to live with the truth without allowing it to consume her.